Hey everyone, welcome to another Intro to HTML video. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about use of color. I'm not going to go too in depth into color theory and design trends, as design trends always change, and color theory is a really deep subject that if you really want to study it, you should get into studying graphic design. But I will talk a little bit about good use of color in websites. First of all, let's talk about color palettes. A color palette is going to be a combination of colors that you're going to use together. I have this website open called Paletton, Paletton.com, and I like this. It's a web widget that allows us to choose color palettes and generate color palettes. You can mess around with this color wheel on the left and drag things around inside the color wheel to adjust a color palette. This would be a monochromatic color palette. Monochromatic means one color. And I'm shifting around, brightening the hue, darkening the tint, lightening the tint, and then I can just go to find a color palette that I like from that monochromatic. We have other color palettes that we can choose from here that are predefined for us. Adjacent colors means they're next to each other on the color wheel. You can choose how close they are in relation to one another if you want. Triad or triadic, which means they're opposite one another on the color wheel, but they are the opposites are split off the side, so it makes kind of a triangle here. You have tetradic, which is 4 sides, and you can choose where you want that tetrad to be spaced. Oops. So you can make 2 opposing colors. Drag the hue up, the tint and the shade, however you want to. Okay, so we've got our triadic, tetradic, adjacent, and monochromatic, and then you can make your own. This is just custom, or they call it freestyle. And you can drag, you can have 2 colors, you can choose 3 colors, you can choose 4 colors, and set up your own color palette. Over here you have a display of what the color palette looks like. It's going to show you all 4 of your colors with the different tints and shades of those colors. Here you've got a mixture of them, of those different colors. And if you go down to these tabs on the bottom, this is your preview. And you can look at different types of preview, circles, color schemes, or you can even go to examples. And the examples are going to show you example web pages using that color scheme. Now, this isn't something that you have to be tied to if you choose that color scheme, but this is just an example. Dark, positive design, negative design, different types of artworks that can be generated randomly from the color schemes. So you can just see what these color schemes look like with different colors. Animated, so bubbling, stripes. So what do we use these for? Well, this is just to give you an idea of how these color schemes could look on a web page. I like this website, Paletton, as a way to start generating ideas. More than likely, when I'm working on a web design, I know what kind of colors I'm going to use based on the brand of the company. And then I'm going to choose colors based on their branding. But if you don't know, if you're coming up with something that doesn't have any branding and you want to come up with your own color scheme, Paletton is a good place to go to help you generate those colors. Now, what do we do with these colors? Well, we can actually get these colors. You can go to tables and export, and that'll tell you all of the HTML values here. You can even get it as an HTML web page. You can get it as CSS, and you can just copy all this and paste it, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit. There are all sorts of different ways. Less and Sass, which are minified CSS, XML as text. Okay, So if you want, you can copy and paste this into your CSS as a comment and go back to it and use it kind of as a palette. All right, so that's Peloton. That's one way that you can generate color schemes. Let's take a look at some existing websites and see what they do with color schemes and what they do as far as design goes. I've chosen 4 websites that I think are well-designed websites where color is used in a way that helps to indicate the function of different things in a web page. All right, I'm going back to a list apart. I come back to this a lot because I think it's pretty well designed. If I go to the home page, you can see that their color palette is very limited. We have a maroonish red color, we've got black and white, we've got blue. Okay, that's a 4-color palette. And then we've got this these 2 grays here. Okay, so it's roughly a 4 or 5 color palette. If you want to call black and white colors, that's fine. Black, white, and gray. And then you've got red and blue. That's a 5-color palette. You probably don't want to get more than that. Each of these colors also serves a purpose. Body copy is black. Links are blue. You're going to see a lot of things that are going to be this red. For example, subheadings are going to be that red. Things that the attention needs to be drawn to are red. Okay. Links are always blue. So when we look at these things, we know what to expect from them. When I look at blue, I see blue, I know it's going to be a link. When I see red, I know it's going to be a subheading, a section heading. So, 5 colors. Each color has its function. Materialize. This one has a limited color palette as well. It's got the pink, which is they've got the darker pink and the lighter pink. They've got black, white, gray, and they've got a darker charcoal. Okay? They also have this teal color for their buttons. But every single thing serves its own purpose. Okay? A limited color palette. Black, white, gray, pink, and teal. 5 colors. Docker. Docker has a couple of different blues. A deeper blue, a lighter blue. It's using the middle blue right here, and then a little bit lighter blue. They've got a gray and they've got white. Okay? Those are the colors that are used by Docker. Once again, 5-color palette. OpenStack. It's got black, white, and gray. It's got red for their branding. You can see that red is used here as well. They've got the deeper blues for the buttons. Links are always blue. You've got the light gray here. And we're back to that red and the blue. So once again, 5-color palette. What are we seeing here? We're seeing websites that limit themselves to 5 colors. If we want to include black and white a color, usually it's 3 separate hues and then black and white. Sometimes it's 2 hues, black, white, and gray. I'm not saying that all websites need to be black, white, and gray. I'm not saying that you have to have a light theme like all the ones that I've chosen. These are just websites that I think are well designed. You're going to find websites out there that are going to be a little bit crazier with the color palettes. They're going to have brighter colors. In fact, that's a growing trend right now to have brighter colors and noisier compositions. That's fine, you can do that. But generally speaking, those brighter colors are also limited in color palette. They're usually limited to 3 or 4 bright colors and then 1 or 2 neutrals, like a black and a white or a white and a gray, and then 3 really bright colors. Limit your color palettes to no more than 5 colors. I mean, you could do more, but I recommend limiting it to no more than 5. Let's go to our design. We have this web page that we've been working on for a while now. It's my first multi-column, and in the last video we played around with font. We used Google Font. We played around with white space in the fonts, using line spacing, using font size. Previous videos we talked about setting the font size using ems and relative units, and some of the basics of typography. Now let's start talking about using color. We want to think about using these colors in different regions. First, think about, what do I want the color to be behind the text. You always want to have colors behind the text that are going to be enough contrast that we can read the text against it, but we don't want the color back there to be so bright and so intense that it grabs our attention. Let's take a look at an example that would be bad. I'm going to just use, I'm not going to use this color palette because I really don't like it. I'm going to go to something like, there we go, that's pretty good. I've got some brights, some darks, some neutrals. Let's see, I'm going to shift it just a little bit here. Okay, that's just fine. And I'm going to get this palette, so I'll go to Export. I'm going to go to Text. I'm going to copy this text. And I'm going to paste it in as a comment in my CSS. I'm just going to put it up at the top of my style sheet here. That's a lot of text. I'm going to take that out when my design is done, because you don't want to send your palette off to a client. But I've got my different shades, my primary, my secondary, and my second secondary. Okay, so if I remember correctly, my primary was going to be, that was the purples, the secondary was the lighter green, and the second secondary was the darker green. So the less saturated and the more saturated green. I think the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to have my body's background be the darkest purple. I'm going to have secondary one's lightest color behind behind all of the body copy. So that's going to be the fifth one in primary and the first one in secondary. So let's see, primary shade 4. I'm going to take this. I said that was going to be the background of the body. So I'm going to go to body here, background color, and just like we've done before, oops, I already had the number symbol there. The hexadecimal always has the number symbol leading, and then you put your hexadecimal value in. I'll save it. I'll refresh it. There we go. Oh, that's really dark. I can't even read my text now. This is what I'm talking about with contrast and color. There is no contrast between the black and the purple. You want to make sure that the color behind the text is going to be lighter. In this case, I'm making a light theme, so I want the text to be, the color behind the text to be lighter. And I said I wanted that to be shade 2. Oops. I wanted that to be shade 2. And or secondary color 1, shade 1. That's this value right here. So I'll copy that, and I'm going to put that in the wrapper, because that's behind all of my content. Background color, save it, check it in the browser. That wasn't what I was looking for. The color that I was looking for was this one right here. So that is number 1, 1, not 1, 0. It's FFFEE1. There we go. If we look up there, FFFEE1 was shade 1. I thought it would be shade 0 because it was the first one, but it wasn't. It's shade 1. I'll save it, check it in the browser. That looks a little bit better. All right, now I'm going to think about my main heading and my subheadings. And I think I'm going to have my main heading be the dark green here. So that would be secondary color 2, shade 4. So if I go to secondary color 2, shade 4, this is it. That's going to be my H1. I don't have a selector just for H1, so I'll make one. Save it. Check it in the browser. That's pretty dark. Oh, that's not the background color. I don't want the background color. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted color. There we go. The color of the font. There we go. That's a nice dark green against the white. Now I'm going to choose a slightly lighter color for my H2s. So I'm going to go to this one, and I think I'll use shade 3 of secondary color 2. So secondary color 2, shade 3, copy it, and I'm going to need to make a style rule for H2. Save it, check it in the browser, see if I like it, and that looks pretty good. It's very subtle. And the last thing, if I want to, I can change the color of the body copy. Maybe I'll go to a sort of a neutral color, a darker color. Maybe I'll go with shade 3, or yeah, shade 3 of secondary 2. So secondary 2, shade 3. Copy it, and I'm going to put this into body. Oops. Color that. Now, because it's in body, everything in the body will get that, but then we're going to override the H1s and the H2s below this. And there we go. You can barely see that the change happened. But that's kind of a nice, limited color palette. Now, if I were to do this again, I would probably choose colors that had a little bit more contrast. I would more carefully choose my color palette. But what I'm doing here is each of my different things have a different color. My H1 is the darkest color. My H2 is slightly lighter. My body copy is a little bit lighter still. The color behind the wrapper is that light gray, and the color in the background of the body is that dark purple. I've got a limited color palette of, I'm just using actually 4 different hues here, and I'm choosing different shades of them. So there you have it. It's a little experimentation with color palettes and adjusting colors in your web page. Thanks for watching.